Hello everyone, this is Nathan Lindorf. This is The Rational Independent, and today I'm going to be discussing a concept that came up yesterday, the idea of adding value. So in light of the recent controversy with Steven Crowder, Daily Wire, and by extension the idea of how Fox News interacts with CNN, how the Republican Party interacts with the Democrats, how there's a concept, conspiracy theory, whatever you want to call it, called controlled opposition. The idea being that the public face that opposes your political opponent may actually be in their pocket, may actually be influenced by them. And because they don't want to reveal that influence, they try and obscure the nature of that influence. Now, what does this have to do with adding value? Well, the simple truth of it is, the analogy that I heard the other day that really ties into this beautifully is the idea of if you have the worldview where you have a pie and you need to slice up the pie and proportion it out as equally as you can, then you're talking about equity, equality of outcome, where everyone gets a reasonably similar same slice of pie. The other outlook, the other opportunity, the other way of looking at this is to say, instead of slicing up the pie as fairly as possible, build a bakery and give everybody pie. If you add value, you can create new wealth, new opportunity, new peace and security, new freedoms. You can do all of that without harming the pie of the people around you. And the challenge is, in the political arena, it is deadly to view the world through the lens of a fixed pie that has to be proportioned. That's where you can kind of trick people into being willing to be part of this controlled opposition, because you're saying, listen, here's this pie, we're going to get most of it, but we're going to give you a big chunk. We're going to make you wealthy. We're going to make you famous. We're going to make you powerful. We're going to build you up. These are seductive promises. These are things that are difficult to say no to. But you have to say no to them. You have to realize that if you're playing a game where you're slicing up the pie and portioning it out, then the person who's doing the slicing has the power. And you're exposing, it just leads to a lot of bad places. We'll explore this more over time, but for now, it's just outside the scope of this video to go into too much detail. So that's kind of the big picture idea. To make it a little more granular, I want to talk a little bit about my work situation and what got me thinking along these lines. So I am a data center guy. I do servers, I do IT, I do cabling, and I've worked for a bunch of people through the years. I've done a bunch of interesting things. I've met interesting people, and the simple truth of it is, there's a lot of value to a life like this. I mean, it's not, I'll never be famous, I'll never be glamorous. It's usually a combination of boring and stressful. But I love it. And I moved my family from Phoenix to Colorado to help my wife pursue an opportunity that was fantastic, a professional opportunity. And in so doing, I left the gig, I left the job I'd been in before. I'd gotten very comfortable there. I'd gotten used to a certain rhythm of life. And I'd even gotten kind of frustrated, kind of bored with it. And so I thought I wanted to change. So I said, perfect. We'll move to another state. I'll take care of the kids primarily. We'll find something for me to do, but I'll help smooth this transition. So for a few months, for the first time in a long time, I didn't have a job anywhere. And I was taking care of my kids and volunteering at their school and helping with homework and all the stuff that is important, but is not glamorous and is not, it's valuable, but it didn't speak to me. It was good, but it was not, I felt like there was more I was called to do. And I realized that there was additional value that I could bring to the world. There was additional value that I was standing to the side from. And so I looked for different opportunities to get back into the professional world. And I found a contract opportunity, so I took it. It's a short-term contract. That's the one I mentioned yesterday, is going to be wrapping up soon. And it's been an interesting situation. I've met some really good people, and I've engaged with their world. And you live in an industry, you work in an industry long enough, you start to see patterns, you start to see commonalities. So I was able to kind of understand the scope of the project and what they were doing pretty quickly. But there's a limit to how useful I can be because I'm only there for a couple of months. There's one of the great values that comes with this kind of established institutional arrangement is the idea of an institutional memory, the idea of building plans and processes and training that enables you to provide the same benefit as someone who has the experience of making all these crazy mistakes to someone who hasn't had the opportunity to make all those mistakes yet, but you can protect the customer environment without having to make all those crazy mistakes. There's a value to that kind of institutional memory. And again, this is, to go big picture, the reason why I'm not a libertarian. Because I believe fundamentally that human beings need each other to live our best lives, that we need structure and order and process and that institutional memory to protect ourselves from I hope the sound on that wasn't terrible. I didn't even realize that I hadn't shut off my car. Neither here nor there. I'm learning how to do this. Anyway, the point of what I'm trying to say is that institutional memory is important, and it's developed by people who engage with the same problems in the same environment time after time after time, and they're able to distill their experience and their wisdom into a process that says, if you do this, you will be able to safely navigate a situation, even if you've never faced that situation before. And this is one of the values, writ large, that conservatism brings to the fold. The idea of, we put a fence here in the wilderness, and we know that with that fence we can protect ourselves from trouble. That fence exists for a reason, even if you never experienced why that fence is there. So coming back to what happened yesterday, I've been having a little trouble with the job because I'm starting to kind of wind it up, and I'm starting to have a little tension with the people that I work with because I'm not as busy as I could be, not as busy as I would be if I was going to be there long term. Because there's some things that it makes sense to involve me in, and other things that are longer term that don't make sense. By the time they bring me up to speed, I'm out the door. So I was talking to my manager, and he said, here's the thing. You may not be as busy as you want to be, but you've brought plenty of value to the team, and I appreciate your experience and expertise. And I was grateful for that. It's always nice to be complimented, especially by the guy who signs your paychecks. But it got me thinking about the idea of creating value. If we now tie this back in to the Steven Crowder and Daily Wire situation, for me, it boils down simply to this. When you present someone a contract that says, here's the pie, $50 million, $5, doesn't matter. Fundamentally, the dollar figure doesn't matter. Here's a fixed pie. This is what you're going to get paid. And then you say, from factors that are outside of your control, we're going to slice away at that pie until potentially you might be paying us to work here. If you look at it, at the terms that they shared, it shows that is a possible outcome. Unlikely though it might be. On the flip side, you can write a contract that says, listen, we want you to make money, but we also need to make money. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a revenue split. And we're going to say, okay, if you make X number of dollars, that's our break even. If you make over that, we're going to incentivize you to build that bakery. We're going to incentivize you to find ways to create more value, to outgrow that bottom line number. And we're going to build terms into the contract that help you, encourage you, incentivize you to create value, to find new ways to expand the pie, to expand the bakery, to make more worth for everyone. And if you do that, then if circumstances go against you, yes, you're going to reduce the profit. You're going to reduce the income. You're going to reduce the revenue. All different words for basically the same thing. But the creator, the creative type, and the owner, the business type, share in the risk and share in the reward. If you have that mentality, then you can come to an agreement. But if one mentality says the world is a fixed pie and we need to slice it up the most equitable way possible, we need to slice it up, frankly, sometimes in the most personally advantageous way possible, or present a contract that says it's all tilted towards me and we're going to argue about this and bicker back and forth and eventually settle in a situation where it's about fair. But you're still approaching it from a mentality of dividing a fixed pie. You're never going to come to terms with someone who says, there's no such thing as a fixed pie. I'll just build a bakery. I'll just create more value. I will always find a way to bring value to the marketplace and get rewarded handsomely for it. I don't think that Steven Crowder and Daily Wire were ever a good fit. I think I'm a little perplexed why they even tried. And there's, when it comes to the he said, it's a challenge because one of them says, they solicited us to write an offer, so we wrote an offer. And someone else says, hey, they came to us and gave us an offer. Who knows who initiated who? Who knows the details of the haggling and the back and forth? A lot of that down in the weeds stuff, you could spend your whole life worrying about it and never really solve anything. But from a big picture perspective, Steven Crowder is a fantastically creative person. Now, his Achilles heel is the business side. He said he doesn't want to do that. It's draining. It's exhausting. And he's wise to realize that there are things that he's built to do, and he should focus on those things. And so I hope he doesn't promote himself into a role where he's no longer doing what he's brilliant at out of business necessity. I think he's got good people around him. I hope he puts the right people into those roles. I hope they can be trusted to run the business side of things, to leave him free to bring the value to the marketplace that he needs to bring. He's an inspiration to a lot of people, and I'm grateful for his call to action to kind of break me out of my shell. I'm still engaged with my kids more than I was in my last job. I'm still now engaged with the work world and enjoying the fact that I can bring those skills and that productivity and gain that value. But I still feel a call on my life. I still feel I'm a religious person. We can get into that later. I still feel a push that there's more value still to give, more value that I'm holding back on. That's why I'm making these videos. I'm also writing again. I'm writing a fantasy novel that I've had kicking around in my brain for a couple of decades. I'm working on some nonfiction stuff for my wife's business, a handful of other things. I'm trying to look for ways to literally create value every day if I can, because I think the world's a better place when we look for ways to build bakeries, to bake more pies, as opposed to just saying, all right, this is what we got. How are we going to slice it up to be as fair as possible? Thank you all for your time. I appreciate it. I am not interested in monetizing this at this time. I'm just interested in engaging with the world and trying, like I said, to offer some value. So feel free to drop a comment. Feel free to like it or whatever Rumble does. I don't really know all the terms. But let me know what you think. Let me know what you'd want to hear about or talk about, and we'll go from there. Have a lovely day.